Today, let's make a fun Halloween shirt from a free pattern. Welcome, I do sewing and DIY related content, and today we are going to be using this fun skeleton fabric and a free pattern from NH Patterns. The cat is helping us too. This is the Heather sweater pattern though, and we're going to be making a fun shirt for Halloween. So the first step was you just go to their website and you can print off the pattern for free. I'll include a link in the description, and then you piece it all together. You cut out the pattern pieces and then you just place them onto your fabric. Now when doing the placement, a lot of this is cut out on the fold, so be careful when you are cutting this out to be sure that you are keeping the fold of your fabric for these pattern pieces. As far as the sizing goes, I found it to be very true to size. When I finished cutting it out and wearing the shirt itself, it was exactly how I thought it was going to fit. I am using a slightly different fabric than what was recommended though. I'm using kind of a lighter thin knit fabric instead of that sweatshirt material. Now for the actual first step of the pattern piece, it was time to now lay out the front and back of our sweatshirt or our sweater, and we're going to be matching it up at the shoulder seams. Now one thing I found useful when I was going through was to mark which piece is the front and which piece is the back, as that will come up especially when it comes time to doing the sleeves. So for this, I just added a little pin into the back piece of my sweater so that I knew that that was the back. And then at the shoulders, I just marked them exactly where I knew they were going to be going, and then pin that all the way up for both of those shoulders so I could then take the seam. Now for sewing up this pattern, the pattern itself recommends using a serger, but if you do not have a serger, it does say that you could use a sewing machine with a stretch stitch. So for this, that would be like a lightning stitch or your zigzag stitch. Now what it was time to do though was just to sew up those shoulder seams that I had already done. So I used my serger, just got a really nice stitch for both of those shoulders. Now it was time to start working on the sleeves. Now the sleeve is the only item that actually has a notch that you have to cut out, as you're going to be matching that notch to that shoulder seam that you just did. So right sides together for the sleeve with the front and back of your sweater that is now sewn at the shoulders, and then you're just going to be pinning the sleeve to the armhole that has been created. So this was very simple to do. I did this for both sides. I pinned both of them up, and then I just went to my serger and took that nice long seam all the way around. Now with this, since this is sort of on a curve, you just want to take your time, go nice and slow. I used a lot of pins, so I was really having to start and stop to make sure everything was laying nice and flat and smooth, and I think it came out really, really well. So now it is time to do what I found the most exciting part of this pattern, which was kind of connecting the side seam as well as the armhole together so that you get one continuous seam to sew up the side of your sweatshirt. So to do this, you're going to fold over the top of your sweatshirt so that the right sides are together for the front and the back, and then you are just going to be pinning up, starting at the bottom of your sweatshirt, pinning up that side, and then pinning up the sleeve of the sweatshirt. And you will repeat this for one side, and then you'll just go and do this for the second side as well. And then you'll just use your serger or your sewing machine and just take that one nice long stitch all the way around. This will then give you that completed sweatshirt look, and we'll only have to worry about the cuffs. Now for the cuffs, I did go ahead and pin those up as well, so I could just do this all at the same time. What I will say though is that I originally used that lighter cotton stretch material, and I found that this did not have enough stretch and it ended up looking really messy. So I am going to go ahead and use a rib knit, but I included all this footage in here just so you can see, like how you would go through the process, since I first did go through all this, and sewing up the one side for both those armholes as well as the neck hole and the waistband. And then what I found out was that it just did not have enough stretch to meet its needs. Once you get all of these sewn up though, so for whatever fabric you use, whether that's a rib knit or just a regular knit, you're going to be folding all of them in half so that the wrong sides are together. So it's actually pretty easy to see here on the skeleton material. You're just going to be folding it up and pressing it all out. So instead of using that skeleton though, I'm going to be using this rib knit, and I am just going to be inserting it into my sweatshirt itself. So I have the waistband is all folded already. I have it pinned up just so that I make sure that both those edges that were folded are matching and together. And with right sides together, I'm going to put the waistband into the shirt. Now the pattern includes many different ways that you can make sure that all of these line up correctly. What I found to be the easiest was figuring out where half of the waistband was, and then for the one half matching it on the one side seam and pinning that up, and then going to wherever the other half that I marked and putting that on the other side seam, and then just working my way all the way around the rest of the sweatshirt to make sure that nothing was puckering and that everything was laying nice and flat and smooth. And I found this to be so much easier with the rib knit. I think think if you had an overall stretchier material than what I was using for the skeleton fabric, you could have gotten really anything to work with it as long as it had that stretch, but my fabric just didn't have enough stretch to work for the waistband or for the cuffs. So you're going to repeat all of this for the arm cuffs as well, and then when it gets time for the neck portion, what I did was I matched that one seam I took with the center back, and then I pinned that, and then wherever the other half of the neck portion was, I matched that with center front. And on the pattern it talks about how you can divide this into quadrants, and then for those side quadrants you're going to be matching them with the shoulder seams, and then the rest of this turns out to be exactly like you've already done for the cuffs as well as the waistband, just making sure everything lays nice and flat and smooth, and then you just use your serger for all of this. I will say that doing the serger for the cuffs was a little tricky just because it is such a small loop and you really want to make sure you take your time. But if you just go nice and slow, you will see that, you get this really nice and clean effect, and I absolutely love how it looked in the end. So for this, I just really took my time, went through, made sure that there wasn't any puckering of the fabric and that my serger was getting all three pieces, so the folded band or cuff as well as making sure it picked up the skeleton fabric too. And once I did that, the shirt was essentially complete. So this is what it looks like. I absolutely love it. Be sure when you are using, if you are using a serger, that you are securing all of your stitches as they can come unraveled, but I'm really happy with how it turned out and I think it's such a fun Halloween make. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.